Have you ever wondered why so many people think of God as a mean, vindictive, petty, jealous, lightning bolt throwing monster? Some swing the pendulum way to the left and say that God never does anything bad to anyone. They go as far as to say that God never punishes his children for anything, for any reason. But God punishes, they say, all the bad people who do bad things. So if God does bad things to bad people, doesn't that mean that God does bad things? Well, God doesn't do the bad things. They say he gets someone else to do it. But can you give the order? What are we to do with the writers like David and others who wrote things about how bad God was treating them? For example, the English Bible in Keynote, it's also known as uh, Lamentations. In chapter 3, verse 2, it says that God forced a Jewish follower into darkness and not light. Look it up. I'm not kidding. In fact, Keynote or Lamentations 1 through 20 says that God did a whole host of terrible things to one of his followers. So we're going to take a really close look at that. And don't get me started on Job. They call him Job in the Western world. His name was Job. God took all Job's wealth, killed his children, and left Job's miserable wife and friends to live. Then, after all the bad stuff, God gave Job all his money back and a new set of children. Gee, that makes it all better, doesn't it? With a God like that, it is no wonder so many people say, thanks, but no thanks. With an image of God like this, it is a wonder that anyone would still follow the Bible, right? Oh, Rob, you just have to believe. Believe what? That God is going to strike me down, make me poor, cover my body with boils, and kill my children, and then give me new children? Come on, Rob, you know better. Okay, believe in what then? That I'll be okay with all the bad stuff God does at some point for some reason? The name of this message is A New Morning. Please stand and cover yourselves for the reading of our scriptures. And for those of you who don't know, I'm tied down with wires and whatnot, so I can't stand. Standing is just a show of respect. It's a tradition. It's not a law of God. Although Yeshua did command you when you pray to get in your prayer closet. That's what they call this. And he said to shut the door. That's what they call doing this. Yeah, that's exactly what he was talking about because he was talking to Jews. Anyway, so I'm tied down. I can't stand that. But we do it as a show of respect because Yeshua, the guy they called Jesus, he did it. All of his followers did it, and all their followers did it. So anyway, our first verse is Keynote, Lamentations 3:22, which says, Hasdei Yahweh, Kilotanu Kilo Halu Rahamai. And then our next verse is the next one, Keynote, or Lamentations 3:23. Hasdashim Labekarim Rabah Ebunataha. All right, so you may be seated. Get my hair flopping around up there. All right. I want to begin with the NIV's version of Keynote of Lamentations, chapter 3, verses 1 through 22. I want you to hear what they said. This is the New International Version. This is what all the great new scholars of today say this this passage says. It starts off with verse 1. I am the man who has seen affliction by the rod of the Lord's wrath. Now, the Hebrew text did not say Lord. It doesn't say Adonai anywhere. And it doesn't give God's proper name either. Sometimes when they have God's proper name, they put the word Lord or Hashem or something like that. Nope, it's not there. It just says his, the rod of his wrath, right? It's the Hebrew word that even means his or it, by the way. So it's not there. They put it there because they want you to know, the translators of the NIV want you to know that this man has seen the affliction of God's wrath. Verse 2 says, He, speaking of God now, they've set the tone here in verse 1, the affliction by the rod of the Lord's wrath. So it's the Lord. He has driven me away and made me walk in darkness rather than light. Indeed, he, still speaking of God, has turned his hand against me again and again all day long. He, speaking of God, has made my skin and my flesh grow old and has broken my bones. He, speaking of God, has besieged me and surrounded me with bitterness and hardship. He, speaking of God, has made me dwell in darkness, not like those long dead. In other words, I might as well be in the grave with all the dead people. Then he, speaking of God, has walled me in so I cannot escape. He, speaking of God, has laid me down with chains. Even when I call out and cry out for help, he, speaking of God, shuts out my prayer. He, speaking of God, has barred my way with blocks of stone. He, speaking of God, has made my path crooked. God has made his path crooked. Like a bear lying in wait, like a lion in hiding. He, speaking of God, dragged me from the path and mangled me and left me without help. He drew his, speaking of God, speaking of God, God is his. He drew his bow and made me the target of his arrows. He, speaking of God, pierced my heart with arrows from his quiver. I became the laughing stock of all my people. No, they said laughing stock of all my people. They mocked me in song all the day long. He, speaking of God, has filled me with bitter herbs and given me gall to drink. He, speaking of God, has broken my teeth with gravel. He, speaking of God, has trampled me in the dust. I have been deprived of peace. I have forgotten, it says, what prosperity is. Now, before I go any further on this, in verse 17, I want to read something. The following, the thing I'm about to read, was taken from David Flusser's book, Judaism of the Second Temple Period, Volume 2, The Jewish Sages and Their Literature, pages 173 through 174. It says, Teacher, what good deed must I do to have eternal life? Focus on the word good. What good deed must I do to have eternal life? This, in any case, is how the question is phrased in Matthew 9:16. According to Luke 18:18 and Mark 10:17, however, the man asks, Good teacher. Now remember, in Matthew, it's what good deed must I do? And in Luke and Mark, it's good teacher. What must I do to inherit eternal life? The addition of the adjective good is typical of Greek style, but neither Hebrew nor Aramaic knows forms of address such as good teacher. It doesn't exist. Matthew's reading, then, is to be preferred. Teacher, what good deed must I do? But it is much more plausible that the Greek translator erred here and that Yeshua's statement, there is only one good, refers not to God, but to the Torah and its commandments. The gist of the conversation is clear enough in Hebrew, but the error arose because Hebrew does not distinguish between the masculine and the neuter. As a result, the translator thought Yeshua was speaking of God and used the Greek masculine, though the broader context indicates he is speaking of the Torah. Yeshua's response on the reading proposed here reflects a famous midrash to Proverb 4:2. It says, For I give you good precepts, good precept, good, tov, precepts, do not forsake my teachings. Even the phrase, there is only one good, reminds us of the phrase, only the Torah is good. Tov. Only the Torah is good. It's in Midrash, or Mishnah rather, Avot 6:3. So in short, the rich man seeks eternal life, and Yeshua directs him to the biblical commandments. So thus, verse 17 should have read, I have been deprived of peace. I have forgotten the Torah. Verse 18, so I say, my splendor is gone, and all that I have hoped from, it says the Lord, but it actually in Hebrew says God's name Yahweh. Verse 19, I remember my affliction and my wandering, the bitterness and the gall. I will remember them, and my soul is downcast within me. Yet this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. So God's done all these horrible things to him, but this he calls to mind, so he has hope. And this is what he calls to mind. Because of, it says, the Lord's, now they're putting that in place of God's proper name. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. Verse 23, they are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. Wow. So let's take a look at keynote, at what they call Lamentations, chapter 3, verse 22. I want to look through every word. We begin with Hasday. They have mercies. It's from Hesed. It's desire. They used to say the word this should be ardor, right? Ardor, A-R-D. It's spelled wrong up here. It is? Ardor, 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 ardor. It means love. In a good sense, zeal toward anyone. Love, kindness, especially of men amongst themselves. Benignity, benevolence, is shown in mutual benefits. Mercy, pity, when referring to those in misfortune. To turn or incline kindness upon anyone. Piety of men towards God. The grace, favor, mercy of God towards men. Uh, constant or abiding favor. In a bad sense, zeal uh, and ardor. See, look how that's spelled. Against anyone. Envy, hence reproach. So basically, what this word means is it's an eager pursuit of someone stemming from an intense, burning, passionate love for them. That's the way you really need to understand this word. Then what's it say after that? It says the proper name of God, Yahweh. Then it says ki, which means if, for, or because. Just kind of depends on how it's used in the sentence. Lo, which is not or no, it's the negative article. So what's negative? Tamnu, consumed. So we're not consumed. To be consumed. Tamnu is to complete, to finish. We're not finished. We're not done. You can't put a fork in us. We're not done. When followed by a bait, to be completed or finished. Wholly or altogether. Be whole or to have it all together, if you will. The primary is in shutting up. The primary idea here is in shutting up or closing. To be finished, ended, especially used in time. To be consumed or spent. To become to an end. To be complete in number, in mind, in heart. To be upright. Okay. This stuff doesn't really tell someone who speaks English what this means in Hebrew, to tell you the truth. When it says in mind and heart to be upright, those who learn the Torah, who learn all of the law and then live by that law, because they've learned it, now they live by it, they're called completed. They're called finished. They're called upright. Nobody else is. And this is the way this word is used. But this is used in the negative, right? Because they stuck it in the negative. So it's because of God's mercy that we are not spent. This is in the negative. So we are not completed. We are not finished to the degree of we're not dead. We're not taking our last breath. We have one more. Just take that next step. Oh wait. Because of His mercy, take another one. Because of His mercy, you never get to end it, right? Because there's always another step to take. Then it says kilo halu. Because something doesn't fail, right? Because halus fail. It's from kala, which is to be completed, finished, hence to be prepared, made ready for someone by anyone, also to be accomplished, fulfilled, use of a prophecy, to be past, gone of space and time, to be consumed, spent, to be wasted, to be destroyed, to perish, to waste, to pine away. Hence, we are not consumed. Our lives are not wasted, and we have not perished. Remember, because it's put in the negative. We're reading the meaning from the positive point of view, but this is the negative article has been attached to it. Then it says Rahamai, which is literally compassion his. So we look at Raham, which is the womb. Poetically, a girl, a woman, from the part being particular to the female. This word is being used to describe how God deals with us. What is he saying? Why would they use this word for compassion? Because it's that love and that desire and that pity and that compassion and all that goodness that comes from the deepest, most inner part of us. So they use this word to describe that it's the deepest part of God. His compassion is the very deepest, most inner part of God. So they use the word wound. Here's my amplified version. Now remember, we're in Keynote or Lamentations 3:22. It is because of Yahweh's eager pursuit of us, stemming from his intense, burning, passionate love for us, that we are not shut up, closed off, finished or ended, consumed or spent. For his deepest emotions of love are never completed, finished or ended, never consumed, spent, wasted, or destroyed. Wow, so here's the regular. It is because of Yahweh's mercies that we are not destroyed, for his mercies never cease. Does that sound like a God who would beat us up with a rod of misery? Remember, that's the first thing it said. Does that sound like a God who would guide us into darkness and not light? A God who turns against us again and again all the day long? A God who wears out our flesh and breaks our bones? Does that sound like a God who surrounds us with bitterness and hardships? To put bitterness and hardships together, you get bittership. Does that sound like a God who causes us to dwell with the dead? Does it sound like a God who builds a wall around us, puts heavy chains on us, shuts up our prayers no matter how loud we cry out? Does it sound like a God who makes our path crooked? Is it like a bear lying in wait, or a bear or a lion lying in wait for us? Does it sound like a God who tears us into pieces, leaves us desolate, sets us up as the target of his arrows? Does it sound like a God who makes us a laughing stock among our people? Does that sound like a God who crushes our teeth with stones, bends us over in worthlessness, removes us from peace and goodness? Does that sound like a God who takes away our strength and hope, leaves us wallowing in the bitterness and the gall of our darkness? Does it really? So he will do all that to us, all that bad stuff to us, but look at us. But okay, so he's going to do all that bad stuff to us, but hey, look at the bright side. We'll never be killed. We'll never be destroyed. It sounds more like he will do all that bad stuff to us, then not destroy us, so we will be left to wallow in the misery of it the rest of our lives. Am I right? Boy, if that's God's mercy, I don't think I want to sign up for it. Do you? Let's move on to the next verse. This is keynote. Remember, Lamentations 3:23. It started off with Hasdashim. You've heard this. Hadashim new. But this is in plural, so this is news. Not like news that you read, but new, lots of new things. New in plural. It's used of a cart, a threshing wing, of a house, of a wife, a king, a song, a name. Because when it's a new king, they call him a new king. When it's a new song, it's a new song. When it's a new wife, it's a new wife. That's what they mean by that. It's used of those things. It often means fresh of this year, of grain. In other words, renewed, like the grass coming up every year. Unheard of. So we're talking brand new, such as had not been previously worshipped or seen or built. So I hope you get that. Then it says Ladakarim, mornings. It's two mornings. Two, like T-O, two mornings, not T-W-O, T-O. So it's morning. It's from Boker, which is morning, daybreak, dawn, so called from the breaking forth of the light, especially the next morning or tomorrow. They use it in all those ways. It is from the root bakar, which is to cleave, to open, from the notion of cleaving and opening. It's of plowing, the breaking forth and the arising of light, to the sense of asking, inquiring, to investigate. Because you're finding out something new, right? Then it says, Rabbah, great. It's to be multiplied, increased, to be many, to be numerous, to become great, to become greater. Hence to grow up, because you're greater in height, greater in age, to become old, to become mighty, because you're strong, you become a mighty hero. It's the noun use of this is rav, which means multius, whether of one continuous thing or of collectives, which contain many parts, many individual things, many numerous, much greater. I think you get the idea. Large, vast, powerful. Anyway, did you guys know that the Talmud calls Rav, that's the title they give to a doctor, an excellent teacher of magnitude of his education? It's a doctorate degree. So if you write me a letter and you write Dr. Rabbi Robert Allen, you're saying Doctor, Doctor. Just saying. Then it says Emunataha. It's faithfulness, you, the ha, the image, you and yours. It's faithfulness, you, firmness, security, faithfulness, fulfilling promises. It is from the root aman, which is properly, it's to prop up, to stay, to sustain, to support, especially to support with the honor, to carry a child. One who carries and cares for a child, also one who guards and brings up, to sustain, to nourish. What they're talking about is, I tell this story every once in a while, but when my daughter Jessica was born, when they first handed her to me, I guess at that point in life, I've never really held a newborn baby. And they handed her to me, and I was out here like this. What do I do with it? And of course, she started flailing her arms and her legs, and she went, wah, wah. That's all she would give it. She wouldn't even put much effort into crying. But anyway, they were like, "What are you doing? Oh my gosh!" And they grabbed her and they turned her sideways and put her in my arms, and she, did that number and got all in there, and then she felt safe. She felt supported. She felt like I was someone she could lean on. Get it? This is what they're talking about with the children. It's to found, to build up. Uh, it's spoken of architects, but it's also spoken of if you raise your children in the way, which is, by the way, the Torah. If you raise your children in the Torah in the way they ought to go, when they're older, they won't depart from it. This is to build them up, to give them something that they can be supported by, something they can stand on, something they can lean on. This gives them the right uh, principles. And that's something people, oh, that's against my principles. Yeah, but you just stole a bunch of money from your boss and you lied to your neighbor. And what principles, right? Everybody has principles. Everybody, almost everybody has a line they won't cross, right? I mean, at some point, if you push hard enough, you'll find a point where somebody that anyone, everybody has a line, and they'll call that their principle. Well, if you're not raised in the Torah, your principles might not be what they ought to be. Follow what I'm saying? So if you found them, you build them up with the Torah, they have something they can lean on, something that supports them, something that props them up. And it leaves them firm, it leaves them unshaken. Metaphorically, it's to be beautiful. To be faithful is to lean and confide on anyone, to trust, to be secure. There's a note here. Faithfulness was generally only spoken with respect to Torah observance in the biblical text. In other words, in being faithful to live out the Torah in our day-to-day lives. This word used in this way was no doubt chosen because the Yehudim, the Jews, believed that the Torah was the foundation of life. It sustains and supports those who live according to it. So here's the amplified translation of keynote. That's Lamentations 3:23. They are new and renewed at the break of every morning. Greatly multiplied and too numerous are the things he does. Establishes a foundation by carrying us like a child in his arms, guarding, sustaining, and nourishing us. He props, sustains, and supports us, earning our trust, making us secure. So here's the regular translation. The greatness of his faithfulness renews every morning. Does that sound like a God who do all kinds of bad stuff to you? The foundation he is building in you is his Torah. The forms that shore up our foundation are his arms wrapped around you. This is how he builds your trust and faithfulness to him. That all sounds good, Rob, but what about all the bad stuff? I think it might be time for me to read my translation of Keynote, Lamentations 3, 1 through 23. But before I do, let me go over a very important and often overlooked rule of Hebrew grammar. When Hebrews want to say it, it, the word it, they say who, the Hebrew word who, if the object is masculine, which literally means he. If the object happens to be a human being and that human being is masculine, they say he. It means he. They say who, but it means he. Hopefully that makes sense then. Which is literally the opposite of she, right? But is nonetheless being used for the word it. If the object is feminine, if they're pointing at a woman, the Hebrews say he or heave, he. They point at a woman and say he. Now that's confusing to us, right? But in Hebrew, he means she, and it's literally the opposite of masculine. But it is nonetheless the word for it. So the word, see, in English, we just have the word it. And we use it for masculine and feminine. It doesn't matter to us. But to the Jews, it does, because their language is a gender-specific language. So the word it is either used in the masculine or it's used in the feminine, which is why they have two different words. There are times when who, the Hebrew word who, and the Hebrew word he should be translated as he and she, as it is in this passage. It's translated as he. But the translators of the English text have really missed the boat on this one over the years. Let's correct that wee little mistake in this passage, shall we? Here's my translation of the Hebrew text. Verse 1. I, the warrior, the strong man, the warrior, have seen misery in the outpouring of its rod. The he here is misery. The it here is masculine, is the word we would use misery. I, the warrior, have seen misery in the outpouring of its rod. It guided me, it being misery, and led me through darkness and not light. Does that make more sense now? God doesn't lead us into darkness instead of light. Misery does. Surely it is turned against me. Its hand overthrows me all the day. It wears out my flesh and my skin. It has broken my bones. It continues upon me and surrounds me with bitterness and hardship. It has caused me to dwell in dark places as the dead of old. It has barricaded me in, and I cannot get out. It has made my chains heavy. Also, if I cry out and shout, it shuts out my prayer. It has walled up my Torah observance, my ways, with hewn stone. It has made my well-worn paths crooked. It is to me a bear lying in wait, or a lion in secret places. I have turned from my path, and it tears me into pieces. I am made desolate. Its bow is bent, and I am set as the target of the arrow. It has caused the sons of its quiver, is what it actually says in Hebrew. So it's caused its arrows, because a quiver is what you put arrows in. The sons of a quiver are arrows. It has it has caused its arrows to go into my innermost parts. I was a laughing stock to all my people. They mocked me all the day. It has filled me with bitterness. It has made my drink bitterness. It has made me drink bitterness, rather. It crushed my teeth with gravel. It has doubled me over with worthlessness. And my soul, she is removed from peace, because I have forgotten Torah. Good. I have forgotten the Torah. As he said, he left his path. Hello. And I said, my strength and my hope is perished from Yahweh. Remember my misery and my strain, bitterness and gall. Remember, I shall remember, and my soul is brought low in me. So when I dwell on this, when I dwell on the bitterness and the gall, my soul is brought low, is what he really said. This I return to in my heart. This is what I return to in my heart, and therefore I have hope. It is because of Yahweh's mercies that we are not destroyed, for his mercies never cease. The greatness of his faithfulness renews every morning. Let's see if we can make this passage crystal clear. So I'm going to change some words here. I, the warrior, have seen misery in the outpouring of misery's rod. Misery guided me and led me through darkness and not light. Surely misery is turned against me. Misery's hand overthrows me all the day. Misery wears my flesh and my skin. Wears out. I keep missing the word out. Misery wears out my flesh and my skin. Misery has broken my bones. Misery continues upon me and surrounds me with bitterness and hardship. Misery has caused me to dwell in dark places as the dead of old. Misery has barricaded me in, and I cannot get out. Misery has made my chains heavy. Also, if I cry out and shout, misery shuts out my prayer. Misery has walled up my Torah observance, my ways, with hewn stone. Misery has made my well-worn paths crooked. Misery is to me a bear lying in wait, or a lion in secret places. I have turned from my path. I have turned from the Torah, from my path, and misery tears me into pieces. I am made desolate. Misery's bow is bent, and I am set as the target for the arrow. Misery has caused misery's arrows to go into my innermost parts. I was a laughingstock to all my people. They mocked me all the day. Misery has filled me with bitterness. Misery has made me drink bitterness. Misery crushed my teeth with gravel. Misery has doubled me over with worthlessness. And my soul she is removed from peace, because I have forgotten Torah. I said, my strength and my hope is perished from Yahweh. And when I remember my misery and my strain, bitterness and gall, when I remember, my soul is brought low in me. This I return to in my heart, therefore I have hope. It is because of Yahweh's mercies that we are not destroyed, for his mercies never cease. The greatness of his faithfulness renews every morning. God is not now, nor has he ever been mean, vindictive, petty, jealous, or a lightning-throwing monster. Never. If he were, we would no longer be here. However, our Torah rebellion can and often does make us mean, vindictive, petty, jealous, ugly word-throwing monsters. It is the Torah rebellion and the misery it brings that gets us there. However, it can only hold us there as long as we either have forgotten or do not know that God's faithfulness in saying what he means and living according to his words, that we can have hope. Hope is the first step to reconciliation. And all we have to do is think about God's faithfulness to have hope. If we have hope, then getting on or back on the path, whether you're just now getting on or getting back on it, to Torah observance is only one step away. It's only literally one thought away. And misery's grip in our inner man is lost. We look at a couple of things from the New Testament letters. Yehaf or Philippians 1:6 says, I am persuaded of this, that he which began a tov ma'aseh of Torah. That's what it really means. That's the idiom, the meaning of the idiom. What the idiom is, he which began a good work in you will execute it until the day you are fully Torah observant. That's the meaning of the idiom. The idiom is until the day of Mashiach Yeshua. May not help a lot, but here's another one. Second Rava of Corinthians 4, 8, and 10. We are trampled in everything, but not crushed. At a loss, but not in despair. Does it sound familiar now? Persecuted, but not forsaken. Knocked down, but not destroyed. And think about Levi or Matthew 11, 28, and 30. Yeshua said, "Come to me, all that are weary and carry heavy burdens. I will give you rest." He said, Yeshua said, take my yoke. What's the yoke? It's the Torah. Take my Torah upon you and learn of me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your soul. While the word translated as yoke does in fact mean yoke, it is being used idiomatically in the verse for the Torah. The yoke of God is the Torah. Yeshua just called the Torah his yoke. This is a Hebrew way of saying, I am God. So in other words, Yeshua called himself God. There is no better place to learn of God, what he wants from us, what he wants for us, and what he wants to do to us than the Torah. If you want to know God, learn his Torah. In verse 29 of this passage, let's see. Take my yoke, my Torah upon you and learn of me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your soul. It's an obvious summation of Jeremiah 6:16. Thus says Yahweh, stand upon the Torah, that's the way, and see and ask for the Torah, that's the well-worn paths of old. Walk in the Torah, that's the good way. The good way is the Torah. The good way is the Torah. And you will find rest for your souls. In verse 30 it says, this is Yeshua talking, for my Torah, my yoke, is merciful. And my mitzvot, that's the 613 laws in case you don't know, my burdens are light. While the word translated as burden does in fact mean burden in Greek, it is being used idiomatic in this verse for the commandments, the burden of God or his commandments, the 613 laws. They're not even hard. Psalm 119, 165 said, great peace are those who love your Torah, and nothing shall cause them to stumble. It's the secret to life. I've given you the secret to life. What causes people to stumble? It's right here. Great peace have those who love Torah, and nothing shall cause them to stumble. What causes them to stumble? What causes people not to understand the will of God? What takes away the people's peace? The lack of love for the Torah. It's right there. Great peace have those who love your Torah, and nothing shall cause them to stumble. No matter how strong a warrior you believe you are, the rod of misery will guide you into darkness. Misery will turn against you all the livelong day. Misery will wear out your flesh and break your bones. Misery will surround you with bitterness and hardship. Misery will cause you to dwell in dark places like the dead of old. Misery will build a wall around you and shackle you with heavy chains. And no matter how loud you shout and cry, misery will shut up your prayers. Misery creates a wall between Torah observance and Torah rebellion. Misery makes a straight path crooked. Misery is like a bear lying in wait or a lion in secret places. But turning from the path of Torah tears us into pieces and leaves us desolate. It is as if misery is a bow with us as the target of the arrows. And those arrows reach to the innermost places in our heart and mind. Misery makes us a laughing stock and a mockery to other people. Misery fills us with bitterness. Misery makes us drink bitterness. Misery crushes our teeth with gravel, and it leaves us doubled over by the worthlessness of it. Our soul is removed from peace when we forget the Torah. Our strength and hope in Yahweh perishes without the Torah. While I dwell on my misery and my strain from Torah and thinking about my bitterness and gall, my soul is brought down into a deep, dark place. But the moment that we return our hearts and minds to God's Torah, we have hope. Not only that, it is because of God's mercy that in those times when we stray from Torah and are overtaken with misery, that we are not destroyed. The greatness of God's faithfulness is seen and thus renewed every single morning since the sun comes up in the east just like it always has. Every day is a new day. Every day is a new chance to remember God's Torah. Every day is a new opportunity to kick the misery of disobedience, doubt, and the lack of trust out and usher in the hope that God reminds us of with the rising of the sun. Every day is a new day, and it begins with a new morning. Shalom.